Tell me you're a cruiser without telling me you're a cruiser? Well, that's kind of simple. If you see an inside-out Ziploc bag hanging on a lifeline or somewhere by a clothespin, that's a pretty good clue. Hi, I'm Nico Waters, and welcome to the Boat Galley Podcast. Today I'm talking about a couple of the different kinds of reusable plastic bags we carry on board. Because, yeah, there are lots of different kinds for lots of different uses. Today's episode of the Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by Marmara Imports. Their hand-loomed, fair trade, organic cotton Turkish towels are highly absorbent, dry quickly, fold flat, and are soft and luxurious. They are perfect for life aboard. Use coupon code PODCAST10 for 10% off any order of $40 or more. MarmaraImports.com. More than a towel. We've got a couple of spare Marmara Imports in one of the kinds of plastic bags I'll talk about today. And I wonder if you can guess which one that might be. Plastic bags. I'm not talking about single-use garbage grocery bags that are super thin and flimsy, but I am talking about lots of different kinds of, plastic bags of some sort or another. And the idea for this podcast came when I was in line at lunch at the SSCA GAM in Pasadena, Maryland in September of 2024. The person said, "Have you ever tried those silicone reusable bags instead of the plastic ones?" Because the person had overheard me talking about how much I really love my Ziploc bags. And this person, understandably, wanted to hear my thoughts on the other kind. And yes, we do have the other kind on board too. And it made me think that this might be a useful kind of a podcast. On board Calypso, we have 3 different sizes of plastic zipper bags, plus additional vacuum seal bags, and those silicone bags. And each one has its own specific use. And we do find that each size is totally essential. And a note, all of these, every single one of these, is used over and over again. There's that joke about how do you tell if it's a cruiser without saying you're a cruiser? Well, we turn these plastic bags inside out, wash it with soap and water, and we hang them to dry. They can be reused a dozen or more times, although they do tend to get less reliable as time wears on. Even the ones that are no longer really waterproof with a fully good seal, they can be used to separate out components of a project. Keep tools in relatively good nick. We keep our fresh, never-used bags in a different bag than the ones that are on multiple life duty, and the only bags that I don't really reuse, at least I definitely don't reuse them for anything food-related, are ones that have held raw chicken. We don't have hot water on the boat, and so I do all my washing in cold water, and I just am not sure that I can get all that raw chicken out of it. So we will use those actually for tools and fasteners, though. So, for starters, we've got Ziploc bags. And yes, I'm actually brand conscious. I buy Ziploc freezer bags. The thicker ones are freezer. They're the pressed together ones. Those are what we carry. We are so serious about the quantities of these that we use that we buy them at Costco. So our Ziploc bags, yes, the brand matters. The other ones we've tried and they just don't last as long. They're not as thick. They don't hold as good a seal. So yeah, we've gone with Ziploc. But the quart-size Ziplocs are great for smaller stuff. Variously, these hold fasteners, small quantities of line, rigging shackles, in separating all of these components out in a larger rigging box. We've got a whole Sailrite box for sewing projects, and Jeremy's got a whole bunch of different, all of his snaps, for instance, are in one Ziploc bag, whereas all the zippers are in another one. You get the general idea. These zip-size Ziplocs also serve as phone protectors if we're going ashore, or as a cruiser's wallet. I'll tuck quarters for laundry into a quart-size bag so they're easy to find or take ashore with a laundry collection. We also will put smaller amounts of food, dry goods in particular, into quart-size bags. A bag of quinoa from Trader Joe's fits perfectly into a quart-size Ziploc bag. The gallon-sized bags are really the workhorse of our plastic bag collection. Every single bag of dry provisions on the boat is first labeled with the date and then tucked into a gallon-sized bag. Any rice, pasta, dried bean, bag of crackers, pancake mix, we take those out of any cardboard box, put it into its own Ziploc before being stashed in the appropriate locker. These are the easiest bags, the ones that have been used just to house dry goods, because they're clean, 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 clean. And so somebody might say, well, why do you put items that come in their own plastic bag into yet another plastic bag? Well, sometimes those initial plastic bags aren't particularly sturdy. What if there's a rip in that original packaging? What happens if there's a leak, either of water or another item punctures or leaks? These Ziploc bags help sort of insulate and separate out the individual bags so our provisions stay as fresh and dry as possible. The next size, Ziploc-ish kind of bag, and I say ish because I have really not found Ziploc makes a 2-gallon size bags. They might. They're just hard enough to find of whatever brand that I make this more of a general lump. 2-gallon or 2.5-gallon size bags, not available at Costco, and they're often really hard to find. They're not in every grocery store where you find your regular plastic bags. When I find them, because I have a hard time finding them, I'll buy 5 or 6 or more boxes. They generally come in quantities of 10. We use these to protect larger dry provisions, like a 5-pound bag of flour that I could fit into a gallon-size bag, but it just is harder, and I stretch, and it makes the seal not quite so good. The 2-gallon-size bags are perfect. We also use them as the double bag, that separate extra bag for the bladders that come in boxes of wine or rum. We take those out of the cardboard that they come in and then place that bladder bag into the Ziploc with a label. Some of the boxes of wine are not in clear color. They're Mylar bags or what have you. And so I tuck the label, just cut it out and put it in there so we remember what that is. So we're not opening a red if we want a white or the other way around. And 2-gallon size bags are also great for stashing small pieces of clothing, up to and including spare cold weather gear. For instance, I've got a couple of different fleeces, each in their own little 2-gallon size bag. Which leads me into the next kind of reusable plastic bag, which is a vacuum seal bag. And after a little trial and error, we've settled on the as seen on TV ones that come in multiple sizes, and it comes with a hand pump that you suck things out. I gather that Ziploc makes some kind of version of these. I think you can find lots and lots of different brands that have them. I've tried this one. It works pretty well. I'm happy with it. There will be a link in the show notes. But watching a sleeping bag go from round and unwieldy and kind of weird to pancake flat is kind of hilarious and awe-inspiring. Just how much room are we using and wasting up storing air? The one thing to watch out for with these is that pancake, it's great. It's a little tiny little thing, but it's pretty stiff. It's like a pretty stiff piece of cardboard, making it kind of challenging to store the packages since they don't really conform to the odd spaces that sometimes are actually the realities of lockers on board. These vacuum seal bags are kind of like giant monster giant Ziplocs that also have a vacuum seal port where you screw on the vacuum pump. So you first put your stuff into it, you maybe lie it flat, unless it's that sleeping bag that I was talking about earlier when I tend to put that in round. But if you put it in flat, you've gotten rid of a lot of the air and it just takes less time to vacuum it out. You seal the zipper, the press together to seal zipper, and that can be a little hard to make sure they're lined up. They don't line up quite as easily as the Ziploc bags do. But then you screw the pump in and pump out all the air that's there. Easy to reuse because you're not cutting anything off of that. You're able to use the whole thing again. And then the last kind of plastic bag that we have on board is those silicone bags. We actually have stasher bags. I've tried the other kind. The stasher bags do the press and seal. I guess I kind of like that particular way of fastening. I have tried the ones that have a sort of a clip attachment that you run over the top and like slide it on, and I just have a harder time with those, maybe because if I'm putting leftovers or something in, I don't actually have 2 or 3 hands. It feels like it takes a hand to hold the bag, a hand to hold the lids together, and then another hand to kind of work the slider on. but it could very well be that it's operator error, and I know people who love those. So don't be put off by my particular experience. Figure it out for yourself. But we do carry a reasonable number of these, which we use really primarily for leftovers. And the one, honestly, in the heaviest rotation on board is a snack-sized one that is perfect for holding cut limes and lemons. These kinds of bags are heavy. They clean pretty nicely, although the corners are pretty difficult to clean super well because they don't turn completely inside out. They've got rounded corners, and because they're a little bit thicker, I haven't found a good way to really press the corners out to really clean them. And you also do need to be careful of getting the food into the press closure because those are a little harder to clean without getting out a Q-tip or a toothpick or something like that. We have 3 different sizes of these. We've got the super large ones that can hold almost a pound of cooked pasta. Medium ones that I think are called the sandwich size, and those we use a lot, and then the snack size ones. They are, frankly, too expensive and likely too thick as well to use in the quantities that we need for general provision storage. I would have to guess that in the main food locker, I might have 50 Ziploc bags in rotation in there. So that's the kind of quantities that I'm talking about. And I will also say that silicone tends to get gummy and sticky over time. So I've only had these things on board for a couple of years. So far, so good, but we'll see how well they hold out. And if you have good ideas on cleaning them, because when they get too sticky and gummy and uncomfortable to use, I probably wouldn't store food in them. So that would not be a very good reusable bag in that case. But plastic isn't great. And I think being mindful of how and when you use it and reuse instead of buying into, oh, it's a single-use bag so I can't clean it. Being mindful and being very aware and intentional about how and when you use those bags, it's one way to lessen the damage that we cause by using too much plastic. Sometimes life on a boat does involve these kinds of hard balances and hard choices, and this is how we've chosen to deal with some of ours. But I can't wait to share an anchorage with you when we get to just toast to our incredible good fortune at being able to live this amazing life. Thank you so much for listening to the Boat Galley podcast. We love hearing from our listeners. We love it when you leave us a review and you share us with your friends because it does help other people find us. The Boat Galley is all about making boat life better. And if you're not familiar with the Boat Galley website, please go check it out at theboatgalley.com because there is so much incredible information out there just for you. Have the most spectacular week.